So a few weeks ago I made this video about the same-sex marriage law here in Maryland being up for referendum thanks to this petition, and the signers of the petition were published by a newspaper. And I said, you know, if you're from Maryland and you see someone's name on there that you know and it's a friend of yours or a family member or whatever, you know, just go have a word, just have a conversation with them, see what you can do. Maybe you can flip them, and if not, at least you'll have had a conversation about something important, about something that matters, about your opinions, and it's something that we don't do often enough, I think, with our friends and family in this culture of ours. So there was that, and then also a few people have messaged me privately or even left comments on videos of mine where they say, you know, how do you know when to jump in? Like, let's say you have a friend that you see a lot, or a person in your family who is always saying things that you disagree with. Maybe you're an atheist and they're a really hardcore evangelical Christian, and they're constantly saying all this stuff that you just find horrendous. How do you know what to say? How do you know when it's a good time to say something and when not? So what I decided to do is make a little video about it. These are some tips that I thought of. These are 9 tips that I thought of for how to have a civil argument with someone. Number 1, treat it like a conversation, not a debate. When I suggested people go have a word with their friends or family members who might have signed this anti-gay petition, that's exactly what I meant. I meant go have a word. I didn't mean go start a fight, and I didn't mean challenge them to a debate. Just start a conversation. Just have a talk. Don't treat it like a debate. That's one of the things that really gets on my nerves. You can't win or lose a debate. It's a matter of opinion. It's a matter of taste. It's a matter of whose arguments you found more compelling. There's no objective winner and loser in a debate. Even if it's a judged debate, it's their opinion. Now, their opinion might have been given official status by the debate, but nevertheless, you're free to disagree. So there's no such thing as a winner or a loser in a debate. So don't look at your conversation, your argument with your friend or family member, as a debate, as something that you need to win. Look at it as a conversation. Look at it as an exchange of ideas. You'll present your case and they'll present theirs, and you'll listen to each other, and it'll go from there. Just don't think of it as a war. Don't think of it, if you want to think of it in adversarial terms, that's fine, but don't think of them as your enemy. Number 2, let the other person start if possible. Now, this is like a dinner table type situation where your uncle or your dad or your grandmother or whoever starts talking about how Barack Obama is a secret Muslim, or how the reason why there are tornadoes and earthquakes is because we're too nice to gay people these days. You might consider that the start. They might go ahead and just start, and then you jump in wanting to respond to some outrageous thing they said. That's fine. But if it's in more of a, hey, can we have a talk situation? If, you know, sit down on the couch, let's discuss this, like I suggested for the anti-gay petition, you know, it helps to let the other person start. Let the other person try to make their case first. And then you can formulate your response based on what they say. Number 3, ask a lot of questions. And this 3rd tip is very closely related to the 2nd tip, because one of the best ways to draw your conversation partner out and to encourage them to not just make pronouncements, but to account for their opinions, is to ask them questions. Well, why do you think that? Well, what do you think will happen if gay marriage becomes legalized? Well, why do you think that the earth is 6,000 years old? You know, ask them for information. Ask them for their arguments, for their evidence, for their support. Not in a smart-ass way, in an honest, interested, curious way. Number 4, listen to the answers. Don't just sit there and wait for them to stop talking so you can launch into your pre-prepared, rehearsed arguments. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to their actual answers to your questions, and then fashion your responses specifically to their answers. Now, this might seem like just a really patronizing thing for me to say, but a lot of people don't do this. They ask someone a question hoping to get a particular answer, and then they launch into their pre-prepared spiel. And I hate it when people do this to me. I had a really protracted exchange in the comment section of one of my other videos a few weeks ago, where it wasn't a conversation. It was the other guy asking and re-asking the same questions, trying to maneuver me into a corner, trying to get me to say a particular response so he could then respond with his pre-prepared argument. It's incredibly frustrating and very transparent. It's really easy to tell when someone's doing that to you. So don't do that to somebody else. Number 5, answer any questions to you directly and simply, then elaborate if necessary. People like short, direct answers to their questions, and so often they will pose their questions in such a way that they demand such an answer, even if the question itself or the subject being discussed is not one that really does very well with short, direct answers. It might be a very complicated subject, like evolution, or like gay rights, or like astronomy or cosmology, or some theological question. Not everything can be discussed fairly and accurately through exchanging short answers to yes or no or either or questions. So if you're asked a question where a brief answer is demanded, but there isn't one that is adequate, what I do is try to answer the question that I'm asked as directly as possible first, and then go on and elaborate if necessary. For instance, let's say I'm arguing with someone about evolution. Say I'm arguing with a Christian, a creationist about evolution, and he poses that classic question, well, what, so you think that, that we just got here by sheer accident? So my first answer to that question is no, that's not what I think. The second answer is the longer, more elaborate answer about evolution not being the result of accidents or chance, that it's guided by forces, etc., etc. But I give him that direct answer first to satisfy his question. That way, he can't say that I'm evading the question, which is another thing that people, certain people, will like to accuse you of if you just launch into long, rambling answers to direct questions. Answer direct questions directly first, and then go off on the elaboration if necessary. Number 6, correct any factual errors you can. If you're like me, you believe the things you believe for good reasons, or at least what you consider to be good reasons, and so you have a lot of facts up here in your head that tell you why the things you believe are true, or probably true, or reasonable, or whatever. So if someone says something in the conversation that you know isn't true, that is factually incorrect, not just a difference of opinion, not just a matter of taste, but a factually incorrect statement, correct them. Tell them what they said is wrong and tell them why it's wrong. If you can remember a source to point them to, all the better. Point them to a source. Or if you're doing this online, it's easy. You can actually just look up the source and show it to them. A lot of people do that. And that's a really great thing to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will automatically be persuaded, that they'll do a 180 and be like, oh my God, you're right. Some people, their technique is just to pretend they don't hear your factual refutations of their claims. They argue through selective hearing, and that can be frustrating, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't make factual corrections if you know that they've said something factually incorrect, and if you have the right information at hand. Especially if you're talking in front of other people, if you have an audience, either on, if it's on the internet, on a message board or a comment page, or if you're, at the dinner table or sitting in the living room with other people. If there are other people around that might be influenced by this conversation, you want to make sure that you have, to the best of your ability, the correct facts out there in the discussion. Number 7, present your own side as simply as possible, focusing on areas your counterpart seems to find most interesting. I'm not suggesting that you offer a reductive, simplistic argument to a really complex topic. What I am suggesting is that you tailor your argument and your half of the conversation to your counterpart, to your partner in the conversation. If you ask a person why they favor creationism over scientific explanations of the development of life, and they start talking about carbon dating, then focus on that. When you present your side, talk to them about carbon dating, radiometric dating. Don't go off on a tangent about some facet of the issue that they don't really seem interested in. Focus on their points of interest. Number 8, try to find a compromise. And when I say compromise, I mean try to suggest a scenario that they might accept, that would nudge them just a little bit closer to where you are. And if there's something you can do to move yourself a little bit closer to them without compromising your principles too egregiously, then be willing to do that in the conversation. For instance, you might say, you might be arguing with someone about gun control, and you might say, okay, look, gun ownership is fine, the Second Amendment exists, it's there, there is the constitutional right to bear arms, but wouldn't you agree that some oversight is prudent, that some sort of registration, some sort of safety requirement, some sort of requirement to be over a certain age or to have taken a safety course, just some basic level of regulation is just common sense. Wouldn't we? I mean, and they might say no. They might say no, there should be no regulation at all. It should be completely unfettered. Anybody should be allowed to get any gun they want, as many times as they want, whenever they want, period, on demand. They might say that, and it might be a waste of time. But it's worth at least trying to reach a compromise. We don't do that nearly often enough, especially in interpersonal conversation. I mean, we don't, in our government, it seems like we don't do it at all anymore. Congress is just completely unwilling to compromise with the opposing party. It's just not even an option anymore. But we do that in our interpersonal relationships too. It's like we're not willing to even try to construct some sort of a bridge where we can find common ground. And if you're interested in finding common ground, and I am, and I think it's important, you can usually find it. Number 9, pick your spots. I have a lot of Facebook friends who are Christians, and they post just, you know, Bible verses, or, you know, things like, oh, praise the Lord for whatever, and that to me is just white noise. I just tune that out. There's no need to jump in and start a fight over that. But if they say something like against same-sex marriage or against gay rights, or if they talk about you know, creationism being superior to evolution, or they make a fact claim that I know is wrong, or they make some statement like you know, Obama is a secret Muslim, or where's Obama's birth certificate, or I just got this great new diet, it's this homeopathic diet, you know, 2 drops of this on my tongue and I'm losing 20 pounds a day or whatever. I mean, stuff like that, I feel compelled to say something. But for stuff where people are just stating their opinion, even if I think the opinion is stupid and horseshit, I usually don't jump in. It's when they take that opinion and then they use it as a justification for advocating something that I disagree with, or if it's something that I think could result in an interesting conversation. That is my rule for whether or not to jump in. Is this going to be an interesting conversation? Is this going to be a useful conversation? And to me, the conversation is the point. It should be a talk. It should be an exchange of ideas. It should be a wish not to persuade the other person necessarily, but to get them to see your side of it and to try to understand their side of it. I mean, if someone is just so dead set against legalizing same-sex marriage, why? I mean, there's the stereotypical reasons why, which sadly usually turn out to be the case with individuals, but you can ask them, say, well, why? What's so bad about gay marriage? Why are you so against it that you don't even want other people who have nothing to do with you to be able to get one? You know, why is your opinion about the age of the earth or the origin of life, why does that count for more than the opinion of virtually every scientist on the planet? I want to know that. Why do you think you know more about the way the Earth's climate works than the vast majority of climate scientists? You know, just ask them to share why they think the way they think, or why they think what they think. It'll help you to reach an understanding. And that's the ultimate point with me, is trying to reach an understanding, to speak for myself, to express my opinions, to get my viewpoint across to people, and also to understand why people think the way they think.
Were you shaking Papa's camera a second ago? Were you shaking Papa's camera? Just own up to it. Just own up to it. Just say it was you. Was it you? I know it was you. Uh-huh.